Hi humans, yet again it is I, Mr. Bella, coming at you with another drawing activity. This exercise shall be the 10th that we're doing in the unit, so please do put that 10 up there in the corner. I'm going to be drawing mine with my notebook like this. Remember, when it is vertical like this, it is portrait, and the converse of that, which is landscape mode like this. And you can draw this anyway, but for this, we're going to be drawing basically one single tree that's probably going to be taking up about that much of the paper here. And this is going to be one of those types of trees, like an oak tree, or maybe like a cypress tree, kind of a generic tree. I'm not really having what kind of tree in mind when I draw this. This is really much more about layering objects again, and branches are really good ways to exhibit that idea of layering and showing objects in space that are farther away and closer. So again, and this is going to be in the winter time, so I'm not going to put any leaves on this yet. The next exercise we do is going to be about adding maybe smaller leaves and how to kind of illustrate what this whole bad boy is going to look like. Okay, so I'm going to start with the trunk. When you're drawing organic trees and bushes and things like that, flowers too, to kind of some extent, you kind of want to start with the thickest parts first, and then work your way out to thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. And obviously the thickest part of a tree is its trunk, so I'm going to draw that first. And I'm going to try to maybe make my trunk end somewhere around the middle of my page here. So I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to remember that trunks and really everything in nature, remember, there is no such thing as a perfectly smooth line. So as I do this, I'm going to kind of take my time, and I'm going to wiggle my pencil as I bring it down a little bit to kind of illustrate like maybe a rougher texture. Kind of the beginnings of maybe putting bark on a tree. And notice too that as I bring this out, I'm bringing it down and kind of pretty straight, and then towards the base of the tree, I'm going to start pushing this line out, kind of make it a curved line like that. And then I'm going to go on the other side. You don't want it to be perfect, but you want it to pretty much follow this line only in a mirror. And I'm going to make my trunk probably about that big. And I'm going to bring that down, same way, kind of purposely squiggling that line just a little. And then when this one starts to curve out more, I'm going to follow suit with that. Bam, bam. And then I'll deal with how to connect this tree with the ground later on right now. Right now I want to focus on some branches. I'm going to start talking about what we were doing with the branches and talking about that idea of how branches become thicker, and then as they grow out, newer and newer branches are skinnier and skinnier and skinnier as they reach out for that sweet sunshine, right? And branches work that way on a small scale, and they also work that way as the whole tree. You know, you can kind of think of a tree like this as kind of just one really big branch that just kind of keeps splitting off into that idea of grandma branches and mom branches and daughter branches and baby branches, and then even baby. I will always think of it that way. I was taught by a grade school teacher when I was in teacher school about that idea, and it really stuck with me. And always helps me keep in mind that I always want them to be getting skinnier. If I'm drawing a line that's from the trunk and it's not getting skinnier, it's not going to look realistic. So I'm going to pick, I'm thinking this guy wants maybe 3 branches, like the main trunk, the grandma branches here. So I'm going to draw that one. I think maybe this one wants to kind of go curvy line up here. When I'm doing this, remember, I'm kind of letting the pencil pick where it goes on its own a little bit. I'm kind of letting it be a little random, but also kind of controlled. Maybe it's going to end somewhere around there. And again, when I'm doing this too, I'm drawing purposely lightly so I can erase these as I go. There's good chunks of this that we're going to want to erase as we go. I'm going to flip over here to the other side here, and I'm going to try to not mirror this one. I don't want it to start looking exactly the same, but kind of. This one's probably still going to be growing up, kind of over to the side, and probably is going to be about as long as this branch. It could be shorter, it could be longer, however you want to draw this tree. This one I'm going to kind of draw just a pretty generic looking tree. Remember, when you're drawing your stuff like this, the more interesting that tree is, probably the more interesting your artwork is going to be. So if I was drawing like the real summative assignment for this, I would definitely not just kind of draw a generic tree like this. I'm thinking this branch is going to want to go kind of out maybe to right around there. And he sticks down a little bit. Now I want to draw the crook kind of where this grandma branch is going to merge into another grandma branch, I think, that I'm going to draw. Maybe kind of going, I'm thinking this way, I'm feeling this way. But I'm going to finish this guy for now. I'm going to start at the top, but I'm going to remember now I want it to get fatter and fatter as I go. And then I find a good trick is to kind of stop somewhere in the middle of that branch and then go back to where you want it to begin. And then have this line kind of end up wandering into and meeting up with this line. So I'm going to go right around here and draw this squiggly line, getting skinnier and skinnier. Bam. And then I think I went in a little too far there. So now I'm going to work on this crook. And this is where I think a lot of realism in trees kind of is born, is where not necessarily with the shape of the branch, but really how those branches connect with each other. So I'm going to have this one kind of stick up again. I think I want it to end right around there-ish. Same thing, kind of drawing that squiggly line, letting my pencil do its thing, kind of guide itself. Maybe it goes off that way a little bit. I think I'm going to have it end right around there. I'm going to go down, I'm going to get fatter and fatter a little bit. Then I'm going to go back down here, and I think this maybe is going to go all the way down here into this crook here. This branch go out. This is a big thick branch. End up like so. So the really easy thing to do when you're drawing trees, and I've talked about this, and I feel like you understand it, my humans out there, but I really want to just illustrate. This is kind of, I think, the most common mistake people do when they are drawing trees. So I'm going to draw a branch here. Here's my tree. Here's my branch. Here's my other branch. And I'm going to say maybe there's one that goes up here over here. If at any point when you're drawing this, it doesn't seem to funnel into itself, get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, it's not going to look realistic. So for like right here, if all of a sudden this branch gets fatter, and I know you can't really see this, but if this branch kind of starts sticking out and then it gets fatter, all of a sudden it looks super funky. Looks much, much better if on a really small scale this line just goes out there and then maybe it separates into a new branch, kind of like so. I know that was kind of a weird tangent, but over and over again when I see people draw trees, that's the mistake that people make. If your tree's not looking kind of realistic, 99% of the chance it's that. And I think, now that I look at this, I think this guy does need maybe even 2 more branches, but we'll see. I think that crook goes down about there. Maybe just 1 more. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of a spot in there where it's like a medium branch. And then I'm going to have this big old fella go, or this big old grandma, go all the way over Schmear. And then kind of ends there. Looking at that, I want that to be a little skinnier. Remember, go back, look at what you just drew, and then see if you think it worked out. And if it didn't work out, go back and erase it. And then if you look at it for a second and you don't notice anything, and then you happen to notice a little detail that you don't love as you're drawing it, it's the beauty of drawing, man. You can always, always, always go back. Just darkening in some of my lines. I do end up liking those. Okay, so now I have this. This doesn't look like much. This doesn't look realistic at all right now. And that's because I haven't added any daughter or grandma branches. So I'm going to pick one of the branches to flesh out first. I'm going to kind of ignore this guy, and I think I'm going to focus for now on this top branch. Because I kind of want to be aware that I want to fill in this area in here. So I'm going to just pick a spot, I think maybe right around here. And right around here would be a good spot for another branch. So I'm going to look at where I'm going to draw this branch, and I'm going to kind of estimate, okay, so it's growing out of this branch. So I know that this right here, where this crook is, this will be about the same width as this, because this part of the tree probably grew at the same time as around this part of the tree. And really, how thick that part of that tree is, that's really how long that part has been in existence. It grew from here first, little sprout, and then got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And as it grew up, then it started to branch out, and each one of these branches is going to get smaller, kind of from a circle right here. So this is like the base part where all the branches are going to mix. And then going out from there, I'm going to grab my handy dandy painting mug here and just kind of illustrate this point. So radiating from this point, all the branches that are from here, like this branch should be about as thick as, say, this branch, because it's on the same radiating path. Like looking at this, I noticed there's not necessarily exactly true, and that's totally okay, but they should be about the same width. If I was to go out farther, same thing. Going in, same thing. Erase this real quick. So people kind of tend to think, like, it does grow from the ground, right? When you're drawing trees, or really recognizing the shapes of trees. But again, really radiates kind of from, there's this central hub kind of where all the branches go in. So I'm going to choose to draw my first mom branch growing out of this grandma branch here. So again, I want it to be about this thick, which looks about right. And I'm going to have this guy, maybe he's going to wander out right around to maybe there. Same thing, starting fat, getting skinnier and skinnier. I'm going to go out to the tip here, and I get a little fatter and fatter. Then I'm going to pick another spot on this bad boy. I think I'm going to go right around there onto that mom branch, and I'm going to have a daughter branch stick out of this one. So same thing, this branch is about that thick, where I'm going to choose to add this branch. So I'm going to make where it branches off about that same width. And this guy's going to go out there. Yeah, happy little tree. Erase my ugly, horrible little guy here. And now I'm going to add, so I've got my trunk, I got my grandma branch, I got a mom branch that splits into two daughter branches. And I think I am going to, that got a little fatter. I'm going to add maybe two baby branches right here. And then at some point, it just kind of becomes little lines. And tons and tons of baby branches off of that. And then as you start fleshing this out and you start doing the same thing that we did here to all these branches, kind of no matter where you put these branches, it'll start to look more and more like a tree. Again, a tree like in wintertime when there are no leaves on it, kind of just the wood and skeleton of that tree. I'm going to illustrate that by I'm going to flesh out maybe a mom branch one more time off of this grandma branch right around there. I want this guy to kind of be almost part of that central heart of the tree, kind of. So right around here, I think I'm going to go from right around there to right around there. So again, looking at where that is, the branch there looks about the right width. Again, and I want these to be always flowing in. So if I'm going to draw something that this is going to make a tree look super unrealistic. I'm going to draw a branch that goes out here, and then I'm going to have it go all of a sudden over here. That is going to kill that realism. And again, that is because trees are always going out toward that sun. They're always growing towards the sun and always kind of away from themselves. It wouldn't make any sense for a branch to go over there, because the sun's in the same place in the sky at the same time of day almost all the time, right? So when when it's summertime and the tree is in its growing mode, it'll always be, again, reaching towards it. The reason that branches get wiggly a little bit, again, is because they really are always chasing that sun. So it'll wiggle a little teeny bit sometimes. Like you can have a branch kind of double in on itself, but it'll never double in on itself very much. I'm going to flesh this guy out to right around there. Build this guy kind of like this. I kind of think of these as lightning bolts, but that's also a trap that you don't want to fall into, because lightning bolts go to the path of least resistance, which means that they're going to double in on themselves and they're going to be really, really squiggly. Tree branches, again, they always are, they seem like they're random, but they're really not, because again, they're always following that sun. I'm going to add... how long have I been doing this? Ooh, geez, I'm already at 15 minutes. So I'm going to add another branch right here because I want to illustrate one thing. And I think I'm going to make it go right around there. So when you're drawing trees too, it's really tempting to just kind of draw them as a flat layer. Right now, all we have is the profile of a tree. These branches just kind of stick out. But this tree, they're not really going to be connected like this. This tree branch probably like goes in a little bit on it, and it'll merge up in this area, kind of. But right now we only have that profile. But that profile will double over itself sometimes, because trees aren't flat, right? They're big 3D objects. So they'll have branches that go kind of over each other. They'll intertwine a little bit. Not too much usually, but a little bit. So I'm going to draw a branch now that's going to be a mom branch. And it's going to go underneath this branch. So with those layered objects we were thinking about, think of these branches kind of that same way. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to leave this area blank, and I'm going to continue this branch kind of maybe up there, right around there. Add a little baby branch here at the tip. Add another, like an older daughter branch over here, kind of one of those ones that's right in between a grandma and a daughter. Build out a little bit more. So I can keep adding branches like this over and over again, as long as I kind of keep track of those rules. And really, again, that is that the branches are always going out from the heart of the tree, which is kind of in a spot where all of these branches are going to merge. That doesn't mean there can't be another branch down here, or anything like that, you know. And again, remember, different trees are going to look really different. This is just kind of a generic, like oak tree. And then remember, the big secret here is when you add a new branch, think about after you draw your first big 3 or 4 or 5 or however many grandma branches, always look at where that branch is touching the branch where you're having it connect, and it's going to be approximately the same width there as it is on the branch that it is connecting to. We are going to continue this exercise. This will be kind of the second to last series of exercises we do until we jump into this summative unit that's coming up. But for today, I want you to be kind of around this this stage in this drawing. And again, think of this is practice. This is not going to be a big deal, but also try to start thinking of these as making like an actual cohesive work of art, not just a sketchbook exercise that you did and it's done. Remember that extra effort always bleeds through, and I can usually kind of really pretty quickly recognize how much time and effort you put into these. So always looking for that extra mile. Perfection doesn't exist, but we might as well strive for it anyway.